A lover spat and an illegitimate son. This is the story of Venom, Let There Be Carnage. And with that, hello everyone. Welcome to my review of, well, Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Man, am I excited. Last week we did Venom, and next week, hopefully, I don't know for sure, but I'm hopeful that next week I'll be doing my review of Venom, The Last Dance. But for now, let's look at the middle part, another polarizing part, because of, how this whole franchise kind of works. People don't like it because of the fact that it's made by Sony, and Sony can't make movies apparently. However, to counter that, we have Tom Hardy back as Venom. That's all I need to say, right? Because once again, he is giving it his A game, boys. He's giving it his A game, and he is once again fantastic. He is in a relationship fight, I guess is the best way that I can describe it, with himself. Because he's in a relationship fight with Venom. And yeah, and also Carnage is in this movie, which I'm actually pretty excited about. I was excited about this movie when it was announced that Carnage was going to be the second villain. Because if you watch my first movie review, I said that it was too early to put Carnage in the movie because of the fact that, you have to focus on the origin of Venom and then you can't focus on Carnage. Now that we got the origin out of the way, we can also focus on Carnage. However, if you want a movie that has, like, character development, yeah, this might not be the movie for you, because they kind of cut that out to have the fastest pacing that I've ever felt in a movie. Like, this movie goes from 0 to 100 in a second. It never stops. It doesn't have, like, the boring parts. It doesn't have that, because the moment that any, like, sort of, like, a character emotion happens, it's on to the next scene, boys. This is such a fast-paced movie. It kind of feels like how my brain works, to be honest. But like I said, Tom Hardy is back in Venom, and he is great in this movie. He has some great lines in this movie. I mean, there's one part where it's like, he just goes like, "Oh, I know this one. It's a tree." It's so stupid. Like, I love how silly these movies are. They don't really take themselves seriously. I mean, yes. I mean, the first movie did. The first movie totally did, in that sense where it was like, oh, the riot and the evil company and all. And then you just have Tom Hardy jumping into a tank of water and eating a lobster. Just in the middle of the fanciest restaurant that you have. You cannot take these movies too seriously. If you want comic book accurate and stuff like that, you're in the wrong place. Because that is where you need to be if Marvel ever decides to do Carnage. Also, this is not R-rated, so you're not gonna have Carnage just biting people's heads off and just, like, blood splattering everywhere. You do get Carnage biting heads off, but it's just, like, more like in the Venom The Last Dance first trailer, when Venom bites off that dude's head and it just vanishes. Yeah, that's kind of like how it goes in this movie. I personally don't really have an issue with it. They still have the sound effect for it, but that is still a problem people have in the movie. However, I would like to complain a little bit about Carnage. Just a little bit. This is not going to be spoilery, as you know. Hopefully you know this by now. I'm going to do a spoiler-free and a spoiler talk. That's just how I work on this channel, okay? But this might be a little bit spoilery, so I'm just going to preface that, okay? So, starting off with Carnage's problems. Number one, Carnage doesn't have a high-pitched voice. He's got a Venom voice. Like, he's got a deep voice. I don't really like that. I'm gonna be honest there. I don't like that. It sounds wrong. After seeing Carnage in animation and in video games, having Carnage be, like, deep-voiced, it's just so weird to me. It feels so wrong. But that is not my only issue. Because my second issue, I'm just gonna not talk about the issue at all. I'm just gonna say one word, because Carnage calls himself we. And in case you don't know, that is a problem. Because Venom says we, Carnage says I. And I'll talk more about that in spoiler, but I hated that in this movie. But outside of that, I love the prison scene. That, like, the first time, like, I think it was in the trailers, but the first time when you see Carnage, I love that scene. It doesn't have the grotesque violence from an R-rated movie, because this is an R-rated movie, but I did like that. Carnage is violent in the movie. He's just not as violent as people may want him to be. But outside, and also, I will say this, he looks really cool, because I didn't talk about this in my original review. Venom doesn't have his Venom symbol on his chest, because that is basically a spider symbol, which he gets after being attached to Spider-Man. But in this universe, he's not attached to Spider-Man, so he doesn't have that. But Carnage doesn't really need something like that, because Carnage is just, well, he's just red and black. That's basically just what Carnage is. He doesn't have like a symbol that he took from Spider-Man. So Carnage looks fantastic in this movie. So does Venom. I will say that right now. But Carnage looks great. But outside of my couple of issues, I actually really like Carnage in this movie. But my biggest problem with this movie is the fact that the character development has just completely been cut out. And I don't like that at all. Where it's just like... And they do some dumb things, which I will talk about in spoilers. In this movie, mainly one thing with Cletus Cassidy that I was just like, but why did you have to do that? I mean, you could have just done something else. And for the people who know, you might still not know what I mean because you might think of the obvious thing, which I'm not even talking about the obvious thing. But I just did not like that. Also, we have two villains in this movie because we don't just have Carnage, we also have Shriek. Apparently, that's what her name is. I kind of wish that this was different because I don't really like Shriek in this movie. I kind of wish it was more like Scream, the symbiote that takes over MJ in Spider-Man 2, the Insomniac game. But I kind of wish it was that one. However, the moment that you introduce a character that can yell at a high frequency, you can kind of start to see where certain things could fall apart easily. Also, we have the return of Anne and Dan, and however, their roles are kind of reversed, because while in the first movie, Dan was basically just there, this time it feels more like Anne is just there. But Dan, this time around, has a badass scene that I really love. I love that scene. That was like, yeah, there you go, Dan. I came around to him. But I'll talk more about that in spoiler section, obviously. But it was a great scene. And we have a cop in this movie who is named Patrick Mulligan. And people who know the comics, they know what's gonna happen in the future. But I thought he was fine in the movie. I didn't really think much of him. You know, it's just like more he's just a cop, basically. He's a cop with a past that is connected to the villains. To not get into spoilers, that is about it. And we have Mrs. Chen back. And what I love about this movie is that apparently in between the first and second movie, she has been feeding Venom chocolate. Which I just love. And she's totally okay with the whole Venom thing. And I love it. I mean, in the trailer for The Last Dance, you saw Venom dancing with Mrs. Chen. Which I'm very excited about that movie. Because, like I said, I love Tom Hardy's silliness. And that is basically all I can really say about the movie. The high points are obviously Tom Hardy and kind of Carnage, but not really, but also kind of Carnage. And I will say this, I think this movie is better than the first one. I like it more than the first one. However, if I had to go with a final verdict, you may not think that because I will give this a final verdict of a 7 out of 10. The same score I gave Venom, but I will say this, preface this by saying that Venom is like a low 7. This one is more on the high 7. However, what makes it not get an 8 out of 10 is that we do not have an Eminem song. I mean, that is also what pushes the first. I didn't talk about it in the review because I completely forgot about it. Because my mind is all over the place. But like, Eminem doesn't do the music here. Like, he doesn't have a song for this movie. The song from the first movie isn't even reused for this movie. And, you know, it does leave a bit of a hole in this movie where it's like, but why didn't you just give us that? So, a 7 out of 10. That is what I will give Venom. So, tell me below what you guys thought of Venom. Let there be carnage. I was overall pretty happy, and looking at Sony's track record, especially what came after this with Morbius and Madam Web, this is gold tier. Okay, this is like a 10 out of 10 movie. Same with the first Venom. Both are 10 out of 10 movies compared to like Morbius and Madam Web, and potentially also Kraven, because we do not have Kraven yet. We do have a trailer, and to anyone wondering, I am not gonna review that movie yet because I don't really care. I care about Venom and Carnage and stuff like that, but I don't really care about the Kraven movie that doesn't have anything to do with Spider-Man. So sadly enough, that will not be reviewed upon release. And also, I like to check the movies that I'm gonna watch, where it's like, you know, budget in that sense. Be like, alright, I'm gonna go to you, but I'm gonna skip you and stuff like that. But like I said, comment down below. Let me know your thoughts about Venom. Let there be carnage. And with that being said, hope you guys have enjoyed. And if you did, please like button, subscribe if you're new or haven't done so already. Turn on notifications. And don't forget to check out the Let's Play channel. Link in the description and at the end of the video. And I'll see you guys hopefully next week, but maybe not, for Venom, The Last Dance. And hopefully the final Venom movie. Bye!